Welcome to series of database management system video lectures. Today we'll be discussing about unit 3 topic 3.4, that is asset properties in DBMS. Now what are asset properties and why do we need for the database management system? Database management system, lot of security will be given to the data. We need to handle the data in such a way that there should not be any kind of tampering of data or data corruption or the manipulation of the data should not be entertained. If any manipulations are made, again we should make the data to be into the original state. Whatever the data which the users are accessing to it, the same thing should also be reflected by various other users as well. So on the whole, database management system should be designed in such a way that it should provide integrity to the data. Data integrity is given high priority for the maintenance of the database management system. To achieve the integrity of the data, DBMS has defined the fundamental properties for ensuring the data integrity with respect to asset properties. What are these asset properties? Asset properties helps us to maintain the data integrity in the database. So these have been abbreviated to atomicity, consistency, isolation, and then durability. These are the four important fundamental properties which helps us for maintenance of the database management system in a proper manner. Now let us get deep dive into each and every one. So the first one is atomicity. What do we mean by atomicity? Atomicity just deals with only atomic operations, which means that only single operation, single transaction should be executed in either in complete one or it should be removed off. So let us take one example. Here we have person A and person B. Now person A, this is with respect to the bank application. Now person A has the amount of rupees 100 in his account and person B also have the amount of rupees 100. Now person A wanted to transfer the amount of 50. Right? So this can be treated as one particular transaction. To do this transaction, there are two sub-operations that have to be performed. The first one is we need to debit certain amount, that is 50 rupees. Now, person A wanted to transfer rupees 50 from his account. So now we need to debit this value from account A and we need to credit this value to account B. Right? So this should get happen now. So when it has been deducted, the resulting value should be 50. So now this debit operation should be done in the account A and then simultaneously the credit should also be done in the account B. So when only the debit operation which is being performed in account A and due to network issue or due to power failure or due to any other system related activities, if it has failed to credit this operation, then the total balance which is being reflected in account A will be 50 and account B will be reflected with 100 only. Now this is what called as inconsistency of data. The data is not maintained in an integrated manner, right? Only deduction is being done, but then the sum of the value in the account B is not being done. So this is what called as debit is successfully done whereas crediting was failed. The credit operation has failed. So now this kind of transaction should not be accepted. So this operation was failed. Now, atomicity rule says that we need to perform both the operations simultaneously. Only then we can consider this T1 transaction has been executed successfully. So that means debit as well as credit operations should be done completely. Only then we can consider this T1 transaction, or otherwise it should bring back to the original state. That is, what was the previous value of account A? It is rupees 100. And what was the previous value of account B? It is rupees 100. So there should not be any changes. What were the original values? The same thing should be remained. So that's how the atomicity rule says. Now, the second one is consistency. Now, look at this particular picture. Consistency tells that when the debit operation is being done in account A and the credit operation wasn't done and it has failed. So there were inconsistent values. A has 50 as the remaining value. B has 100 because actually it should be 150, but then it was reflected to be 100 as the credit operation was left pending. So this is called as inconsistency state of the database. We need to check at each and every point that whether the system is in consistent state or not. So that this can be ensured by atomic operations that are being done. So both the credit and then debit operations should be done, and only then we can treat it as a single transaction. So consistency tells us that, let us understand the consistency property of DBMS here with an example. So A account has 300 rupees. Now we wanted to transfer 50 from A to B and 20 from A to C. So these are the operations that we wanted to perform. When we are doing that, simultaneously, the deduction in account A should be performed so that it will be resulting in 250. When we are sending the money to B, so B earlier has rupees 100. Once after crediting 50, it should reflect it as 150. No more B should reflect the value to be 100. If it is so, it means that the data is inconsistent. So this can happen when the atomicity was not achieved. Okay. Now with respect to account C has 50 rupees earlier. Now A account is sending rupees 20. So the summation should result in 70. It should not reflect it to be 50, which means that the debiting operation is being done successfully, but the credit operation was not done successfully. So in that case, it should not reflect to be 50 here. Either here 300 should be reflected, 250 should be reflected, and then 100 and 50 should be reflected. Or 230 should be reflected and 70 should be reflected. Clear? So in this manner, the updations should be done properly. Only then we will be able to achieve consistency of the data. At any point of time, the data should be in consistent nature. Only then the further operations can be implemented upon the data. So always database management system ensures that the data should be in consistent manner. So this can be achieved only when the atomicity is implemented in a correct manner. This is about the second property of the asset. The third one is, isolation. when multiple number of transactions, that is T1, T2, T3 transactions have been involved with respect to A, B, and C, then we need to be sure that the operations from A to B should be taken place independently from the operations which are being done from A to C, right? So this is how we need to balance. To understand this better, let us take another example. Now look at this. Now we have three different parties who have been involved in this. Account A, person A, B, and then C. Any operations that are being exchanged between A and B can be termed as T1 transaction. And any operations which are exchanged from A and C can be termed as T2 transaction. Now, from account A, already we have 100 rupees. Now we wanted to send 20 rupees from account A to B. So there should be a deduction. So the availability is 80 rupees in account A. That's how B should also be updated simultaneously. B earlier has 50 rupees. Now, after crediting, it should be reflected with 70 rupees. Now, T1 transaction was achieved successfully. Now, look at the second one. Any further transactions from A to C are referred to as T2 transaction. Now, from account A, we wanted to transfer 20 to C account. So further it can be deducted so that the available value should be reflected as 60, and in account C already we have 70. In addition to it, it should be resulted with 90. If these values are reflected in this manner, you can achieve that there is a consistent data which is being maintained, right? Now, isolation tells that if multiple number of people or the parties that have been involved with respect to different transactions, there should not be any incomplete values, any incomplete updations of the values. So here, B should not get, if B was not updated properly, or if the B did not get the actual value from A properly, then we can say that the transaction was not done properly. And then with respect to A and C also, the deduction was being made here, but updation wasn't made, right? So when the operation is being done with respect to C, it should not interfere into the other set of operations of B transaction, right? So these A to C should happen independently with A to B. There should not be any collision of transactions that should happen. Reading of the data values, updation of the data values should be done independently. That's how we can say that the transactions are achieved in isolation with the other transactions, right? Now, look at the last asset property, that is durability. Now, as long as we could maintain the data to be consistent in nature, then it can be preserved for future purpose, right? If we couldn't achieve consistency of data, then absolutely all the operations of the transactions which have been implemented will lose data integrity. When data integrity is not maintained properly, then it cannot be preserved for future references, right? So how long this data can be supported for the maintenance of availability with the integration of the data. So to achieve this, all the asset properties should be followed. Now, for the durability of the data, I should freeze the operations that have been performed so far. To do that, we have data control language commands, that is commit and then rollback. These are the commands which helps us to preserve the data to be in consistent manner. So commit is a command which is going to be issued so that there could not be any more operations that are entertained upon the data. So let us say that you have credited the amount from A, you have debited rupees 20 from account A, right? So it should be reflected with 50, and B account already has 50 and it has been credited with a 20. So the resulting will be 70. Now, at this point of time, I don't want to conduct any more kind of transactions. So let me freeze these values. At any point of time, A should be reflected with 50 and B should be reflected with 70. To get this sort of thing, I should issue a commit command so that the values will never be modified. Okay. So unless we release this, there will not be any other operations that gets performed here. So these are the importance of asset properties in database management system. Thank you.